Hi there everyone, today I'm reviewing The Templars by Dan Jones. So I typically avoid retelling the tale or background of a non-fiction book. For that I think it's better to focus on the author's work instead. My job is to assess, I believe, and in this instance I'm glad, since the Templars' story and their role in the Crusades is riveting, but is also intricate and would take some dissembling. The Templars, or poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, as they were known, or the Knights Templar, were Catholic knights taking holy war to the east. Their crusades from around 1119 to 1312 were typified by bloodshed, power, and self-righteousness. In fact, the Templars became anything but poor, becoming influential in power bases, finance, and geographically influential. The thing was, the unification of religion and righteous war justified any brutality, any bloodshed, any power grabbing on both sides of Islam and Christianity. Once it was decided at the Council of Nablus that any cleric could take up arms in the cause of self-defense in the Western world, the gloves were off. Jerusalem was the fulcrum for these encounters, and the Templars were founded on the Temple Mount by Hughes of Payne in 1119. They were far from the only order formed during these times. The Teutonic Knights, the Knights Hospitaller, the Knights of St. Lazarus. There were various power brokers, probably often truly devout, but also sensing opportunity for power and prestige. The Templars received a degree of power from the off, endorsed by the Church and later by Pope Innocent II's papal bull. They were exempted from local laws. They ultimately only had to answer to the Pope. Eventually, they had established a huge financial network of banking and influence across Christendom, Europe, and the Middle East. Through this, they were able to receive favour, partake in crusades, and thus, in a kind of bi-directional system, get rewarded in prestige and prosperity for supporting powerful kings and nobles in their crusades. Saladin, as documented in this book, was to prove a prickly thorn in the side of the West's religious wars. At the Battle of Montgisard, 500 Templar knights on horseback charged out ahead of several thousand infantry to allegedly defeat an army of 26,000 under Saladin. That latter number is likely highly exaggerated, but it's probably still indicative of the overwhelming odds. The Templars were shock troops, heavily armoured, skilled, and believing in what they were fighting for. They would give no quarter, and it was not unusual to see them charge out like this. This book acknowledges the wealth and power of the Templars, but focuses mainly on the military aspects. It is for the most part a faithful recounting, detailing the difficulties of encountering Saladin, the charisma and genius of Richard Lionheart, or the interactions with the Knights Hospitaller. It is often to the point, but it is very readable, quickly and deftly analysing the decisions, actions, and certainly not neglecting recognition of the brutality of these times. There's a bewildering cast of figures, power plays, rivalries between the East and West, perceived slights, rights, and beheadings. Sometimes I wondered if we could pause to kind of explore these more deeply, and not just the action and events. Since, despite being readable, I sometimes found it tricky to connect the myriad dots throughout the narrative of the Templars. So then, it is very accurate as I described it above to call it a faithful retelling. If you already know the Crusades well, it maybe isn't the best book, since much of it is a recounting that perhaps lacks new ground or perspective. But Jones does write well, and he has an erudite ability to deliver a timely phrase, to summarise the events, aura, or fantasy of the Templars. An advantage is that he reads the audiobook very well himself, no doubt helped by his airtime from many history programmes on TV. Open a quote to give an example. As the middle of the 13th century approached then, the Templars had reached extraordinary maturity as an organisation. In the Holy Land, they were an increasingly autonomous military entity, occupying large numbers of castles and pursuing policies best suited to themselves, even when these cut across the wishes and interests of the highest secular authorities, end quote, and that's on page 274. So in terms of final score then, this is a good overview of the Templars. It focuses mainly on the battles, the power brokering, the brutality of the Templars' role in the Crusades. But it perhaps doesn't delve beyond this as much as I'd like. Although it does talk about the decline of the Templars, the reliance of kings for loans from the Templars, or the fantastical legacy of the Templars mentioned in the conclusion, we probably could have seen these taken further. But at the same time, there's very little wrong with this as an introduction to the Templars. It's detailed, it has a lot of the key events in here, so it is definitely a worthy read. So I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10. It's a solid, good read. It's well written. It contains a lot of important events. But if you already know the Crusades and the Templars in detail, it might not be the best book. Or you could just get it on audiobook and have it as kind of like a enjoyable listen. So I'm reviewing plenty more books, especially history, ancient histories, Warhammer 40k sci-fi. So like and subscribe for that, and thanks for watching.